buckets. From around the world to your backyard.
Zuzu Radio.
Welcome to Zuzu Radio. I'm your host, Brandon. I'm here with
Jessica Stoddard.
Jessica. Good to be with you.
You too.
Today, we're talking about one of our favorite things.
Oh my God.
UFOs, aliens, disclosure, things of that nature. And since we both love this thing, I think it's always interesting to try and go back in time and realize when that began. Do you know, is there a moment for you that stands out as when it started?
Yes, but I feel like it maybe is a variety of moments leading up to like more recently in past years when I've started to kind of get more interested in it in a way that's just sort of beyond pop culture because, you know, I grew up with one of my favorite movies being Men in Black.
That's right. Yeah.
I was telling you how recently we had our sort of last day of class and my students were just working in the lab and I just put it on the big screen. It was such a fun day because like some students were working, some students were just watching. I was laughing every 5 minutes, you know. Definitely from a pop culture sense, would go on to become a huge fan of Futurama. And it was funny because in the lead up to this conversation, I was thinking about the episode where they go to Roswell, New Mexico, and you know they find Bender's ass and think it's a flying saucer, and also like they find Dr. Zoidberg and like you know think he's an alien.
That's right.
And he's just like, hey guys, what are you up to later?
What an amazing show.
I know it really is. You know, it kind of got started as sort of you know. In that sort of fun way, and again more later on, and just like the past couple of years, sort of, you know, I began my journey down the Reddit rabbit hole, and
It'll get you.
it will, and it certainly has.
Yeah, me too. I think it's interesting to think about entertainment as a way into understanding this phenomenon of whatever this is,
Yeah.
And how some people speculate that there's a certain level of conditioning that's happening when, you know,
Yes.
a Futurama episode like that plays. Would you agree?
Yes, and I mean, and more recently, just the sort of stuff that is happening as far as the government releasing files, and even people saying, just the amount of coverage that these things are getting in mainstream media, and Steven Spielberg's upcoming movie Disclosure Day, not sponsoring this podcast, but all of that being like an assimilation in a way of being like, disclosure isn't something that's going to happen on a day. It is, we're sort of being assimilated now in a way that I guess approaching it from the perspective of like, we don't want to just sort of plop this ontological shock onto our whole culture because it doesn't seem like that would be wise. And I tend to agree with that. I tend to think that like whatever is happening here, it could be part of that sort of cultural assimilation. What do you think?
I feel that. I think to some degree, it's kind of why I wanted to do this episode, where I have to say I was like dealing with a sense of like shame, or I would call it like conspiracy guilt, you know, like,
for sure.
Am I propagating something that is unfounded? And then, I don't want to sound crazy, but like it's something that I really believe in. And then when you get down to a base level, you start to realize like, well, how is it different from anything that you can't see that people believe in?
Sure.
You know, like ghosts, gods, aliens, psychics, dreams.
Exactly.
Like, they're all belief-based, right?
That's right. And
So-
I appreciate the shame. And, you know, there is still the stigma. I was like, am I going to tell my mom I'm going on this podcast? I was talking
Would
to
she be into it?
Yeah, I don't know. That's the thing. You know, and I had a friend I was talking to, and I was like, well, so, you know, and it kind of gave my whole thing. And I was like, well, do you think that I'm weird? And they're like, yeah, but like you were weird before, not for this reason in particular. I'm like, see, there's a level of acceptance that I think, or I hope is, you know, moving us away from that stigma. But
yeah, hopefully it seems like actively they're trying to do that. That's the impression that I'm getting with this like sort of slow drip of information, which we'll kind of get into like what's coming out.
Yeah.
But I think so much about the idea of dreams where every night you go to sleep, You forget who you are, where and when you are.
Yeah.
You experience sensational, sometimes terrifying things. You wake up in the morning and act like none of it ever happened.
It is insane. You're right.
Like if everyone is walking around like internalizing that and being like that's fine, that's normal. It seems to, I don't know. You could assume that that is happening in some place that is still there even when we're awake.
Yeah. I love that idea, and I love kind of like, I think one of the, speaking of like sort of ways that I got into like the curiosity about these things, I think was definitely also introduced through time travel and like interdimensional, even again, just through like pop culture things, but being like, oh, I'm really fascinated with this. And the sort of same dreams kind of fall into that same category where it's like unexplainable and weird, but really worth exploring, and trying to do that in a way where you can again remove some of the sort of shame surrounding it, because what the fuck do any of us know? Like, settle down.
Yeah, none of us know anything. Dreams are the type of thing that are so personal. I feel like sometimes it's hard to share your dreams with other people because it's like the set of symbols that you have, the connotations you have, and the associations, they're playing out in your subconscious, right?
Yeah.
This is what they tell us. I don't know if this is what dreams are, but so it's hard to like translate them to anyone else. It's almost like they're just for you.
Yeah.
Like sometimes like it feels like a message is coming through or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I find them to be really important, although I don't understand why.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. I have an interesting relationship to the things that I dream about, because I have this attitude sometimes where I'm just like, wow, I just had this like whole experience, and within 2 minutes of waking up, I can't remember any of it. Like I have these like, I'll have little weird flashbacks or feelings throughout the day, and be like, oh yeah, that's crazy that like my mind was sort of like very actively engaged in a narrative that now I can't recall. Like, what is going on down there?
Yeah. The other day I was like, man, who was I just talking to? I was talking to somebody about FDR and the Roosevelts, and then I realized it was in a dream.
Oh
like
my
that
God.
wasn't. I didn't talk to anyone but myself about it. Oh, it's weird. But this idea of the stigma shifting, it definitely feels real. It feels like we're on the verge of disclosure, whatever that means. And I think, like I said before, part of the reason why I want to do this is almost just to like crash course, catch people up into what has happened, public facing, and then what the theories are sort of under the veil.
That's cool.
And so like, I'm going to give you my like really condensed version.
That's good.
2017, those videos came out. New York Times released videos. They were called like the Gimbal and the Go Fast. Did you see those? Do you remember those?
I can't. I feel like just in the recent videos that I've watched from the more from the things that have just gotten dropped, it's hard for me to remember. But yeah, I know that I'd heard of those names and of that story dropping.
Okay, yeah, because right now they're doing a similar thing, just on a bigger level.
Yeah.
But that was 2017, so almost 10 years ago now. Since those were released, there have been congressional hearings, and this guy, David Grush, who's known as a whistleblower who had familiarity with kind of like firsthand knowledge of these legacy programs that were crash retrieval based, where craft would come out of the sky, fall, and they'd go pick it up. And various figures have testified different things about that. Mostly it's sort of stonewalled by NDAs and national security, and it's been hard for congressional leaders to access the people that really have direct information on this stuff. And then you have this film called Age of Disclosure, which came out, and that features a ton of high-level political figures saying basically disclosing, saying like that we aren't alone, we don't know what it is. The next step is kind of up to unraveling the deep state stuff that is tangled all up in this. And there are many conspiracies that happen along the way, Epstein being one of them, of course. Yeah. And that's not really a conspiracy because there is truth to that, but there's something so much deeper. And I think in some ways people feel like to obscure whatever the presidential connection is to those files, there's now this push to have a new disclosure with a new database similar to what happened in 2017, where they're going to declassify a bunch of documents and show us a bunch of videos. And people are torn on whether or not this is like, I don't know if it's like a positive thing, if it's like a nice gesture, like here, we're going to tell you the truth now, or if it's like meant to obscure in other ways. I honestly kind of think it's both to some degree.
Yeah, that's been something that's tricky, and a lot of people having conversations about like the motivation behind it. And, you've got your, this is just like muddying the waters from, distraction from the Epstein stuff, and other people who are like, there's just so many different camps of thought, which makes it hard to kind of navigate through. And it's like why I am excited to talk to you, because I'm still learning a lot about, like, again, how this has progressed,
Yeah. Right. There's so much to account for. And it was really hard preparing for this episode to try and sort of whittle down what people think this is.
Yeah.
Because there's like crazy fringe ideas.
Yes.
And if I really put it all together, we'd be here forever.
Yeah.
But one of the things I keep going back to with all of this is just the idea that no one really knows. And that there is a level beyond what we see at play,
Yeah.
And like deep state is what like QAnon would use. And that's where the shame comes in. I'm like, I'm not trying to be QAnon.
No, I know you're not.
But I do believe that there's like shady government stuff that happens that we know nothing about.
Yeah, I think that's totally reasonable to think.
Yeah. There's actually a really famous in the UFO community video of Trump being interviewed right after the New Jersey drone flap. Do you remember that when all the drones were in New Jersey?
Where there are all these people thought UFOs or an attack of the killer drones. And I believe you're doing something about.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
I know who. I can't tell you who it was and what it was, but I can't really tell you. I'd love to tell you actually, but it's not a big deal.
Like Trump, everyone has been like, this guy can't keep his secret. So if there were UFOs or aliens, he would have blurted it out by now. But I think that in some ways that was like him sort of like, oops, like I almost said too much. Yeah. And if there is like a lot of concern about hiding the truth, then there are two things that come to mind. One is that the truth is really indigestible and the ontological shock is a factor, which I think we'll get to.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that they've done things to hide the truth that are unlawful.
Yeah.
Like, there are people on record saying that people have been killed to hide the truth.
Right.
And so one of the things that they presented as an option to start the information coming out freely is amnesty for the people who have broken the law.
Yes.
What do you think about that as an option?
So, like, you mentioned age of disclosure, like, and it was, it might seem obvious, but it was my first introduction to, like, oh, like, even these high-ranking officials, congressmen and women, like, they also are like, where is this information? Like, they're talking about not having access to the truth because, you just kind of assume like, well, the senators, they probably know about the aliens, right?
Probably know,
right? But then it's just like, oh yeah, you're like digging deeper and deeper, and you're like, there's like so many levels to this, and amnesty and protections for the people who would be able to come out and provide more context is really important. And I don't know, like something that I'm not sure will that ever be able to happen. Again, getting on the borderlines of some of the stuff that I'm not sure if it's fringe or legitimate, because, a ton of conversations having taken place recently about scientists and people related to a lot of this sort of UAP reverse engineering stuff, like going missing or being killed and stuff. And again, it's hard. It's really difficult to navigate, like, sort of where you are in the truth-o-meter of that.
Yeah.
But certainly for the people who want to be able to come forward and like shed more light on the context of all of this, it's really tricky. I've seen, I can never remember how to pronounce his name. Is it Lou Elizondo?
Yeah.
And different figures who have been sort of prominent and active in the sort of push for disclosure. Also having a lot of things around them that make it hard to know, is this stuff helping? Is it like for the sort of disclosure movement? Is it helping? And I don't know what. So I'm interested in your take on this as far as like whistleblowers and people coming forward.
Yeah, it seems like when one is established as a trustworthy source, very close behind that, they are found to have lied about something or manipulated something, or the waters are muddied to a point where you don't know who to trust.
Right.
There's a lot of people who make a lot of wild claims and then never really provide any evidence. Usually they say, like, if you knew what I know, then your mind would be blown. But they won't tell you what they know.
Right.
And so it feels like a lot of grifters.
Yeah.
You get that sensation. And it's there to some degree. There is sort of like a psyop at play. There's certain people in the intelligence community that don't want this to come out at all, and so they're doing what they can to slip in bad information, misinformation, if you will. And so it's hard to know who to trust, but I think that's also sort of part of this game. It's kind of like religious charlatans. Like there's some people who might come selling this like big product, and they wear like a sparkly jacket and the spotlight's on them and then dance around on stage, and then there's other people who are like on the street corner, like preaching, and there's this whole range of trust, like whether they seem genuine in what they're saying or whether it's like, wait, something seems off about you.
Yeah.
And you kind of just have to trust your intuition as you're hearing this information and parse it into your own compartments and be like, okay, intuitively that feels true, and intuitively no. So it's a good question. And I think that's why I kind of just leave the door open and let it all come in, and then sort of parse it over time. As far as the amnesty question goes, though, I think it's also a lesson in what it means to be forgiving and accepting and surrender to the reality. This person killed a lot of people, and I would love to see them held accountable and justice be served. But in the same way, if we really tie ourselves to the punishment, then we never uncover truth. And so I don't know if the trade-off is one way or the other any better.
Yeah.
It's a tough question.
It is.
But let's get out of that. Let's get into speculation territory, because that's really where this topic lives. It's like a lot of people come out and leak information. There's 4chan leakers, Reddit leakers, MIT scientists, stuff dropping. And in what you've heard and known in your Reddit rabbit hole, do you see this, I'll call it like a phenomenon of UFO, UAP, do you see it as overall good or evil?
Oh, wow. Let me think. I would say that from my perspective, I feel like I'm still in a sort of like an observational stage of looking at all of this. And it's sort of, I do this with different areas of Reddit where I'm, as somebody who's like really into communications, I'm like kind of looking at it from the sort of cultural phenomenon of how we exchange information, especially in places like Reddit. And I'm kind of like really interested in all of the different theories that get put forward, and while still like not always being sure of how I parse the information for myself, I think that my hope is that ultimately all of the stuff that's coming out is for the good. Because again, there are some people who would just be like, this is a distraction from the war and the Epstein stuff. I'm like, yeah, that fucking sucks. I'm sorry. I don't know if I can say fucking on this podcast. Oh, thank God. Whoa. And so as to where it falls in that, like, is it more about whether I think aliens are good or evil, or the release of information is for good or ill?
I guess there are two questions kind of at play. Yeah. Well, let's take them both.
Okay. As far as the release of information, for whatever, it's hard because you're like, I don't know the White House's motivation behind this, and ultimately, no, I don't trust this administration. But for whatever reason, it's happening now. It is, and that is seems to be like a new development, right? And again, the number of mainstream news outlets that are covering stories across a variety of left and right leaning and more objective and publications and stuff, like if it's a point in the right direction for truth, whether or not I believe that or I'm accepted it or whatever, like I hope that is just for the benefit of humanity in a way that again helps with the ontological shock of disclosure in a way that doesn't lead to a sort of collapse of stability. I always feel a little dramatic talking about how do they refer to it as a certain kind of disclosure where it's catastrophic, right?
Yeah,
okay,
right.
So catastrophic. Like I hope that all of the things that are happening here are to avoid that, because I feel like in the past few years, again, dealing with your own ontological shock with even just considering the idea of it is challenging. And then, like, I don't necessarily think that we're going to deal with that information in a healthy way if there isn't disputable proof presented.
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's funny because, in this conversation, I feel like there are times where I need to say, in the world of Reddit, this is what I'm hearing.
Yes,
and
exactly.
then in like my own experience in real life, there's something different. But in Reddit, a lot of people will say, there's aliens, so what? I got to get up and go to work and pay my bills tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I think that there's almost some comfort in that. Like it's, knowing that it's true won't change anything. But I think that if this drills down into the second question is, what is their purpose? Are they good or bad? What do they want? What do you think that this phenomenon wants from humanity? Because I think it's clear that there's something here.
Yeah.
And if we don't later, we'll get into what it might be.
Yeah.
But what does it want?
That is the question.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like I when I'm in the Reddit world and I'm enjoying the speculations and the questions that people are asking, it's just sort of like participating in this sort of weird social experiment in a way where I don't feel certain about any of it, especially when it comes to the nature of what someone might want. But just some of the theories that I'm sure that you've heard and ones that I've come across being like, they've always been here, but there's something about all of our nuclear shit that they keep an eye on, especially all that stuff that was going on with the drones in New Jersey and the activity that was happening near nuclear sites. And then there's the more extreme versions of, us being like a factory farm.
Right.
Humanity is sort of like enslaved and in this sort of simulation, so the spectrum of it is like so broad and ranges so far. And then I read stories about people who feel really hopeful about how, the opportunities for humanity in this kind of relationship and what it could mean.
Yeah.
I just don't know within myself personally where I land with reflecting on those intentions. I think it is a little muddied by so many of the different things that get thrown around, again, a lot of times on the internet. So this is why it's nice to come together and talk about it with a person, And I like that when you and I were becoming friends, the alien thing came up and we're like, hold on a second. You too?
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, thank God. Yeah. I needed a real person to be like, yeah, that's cool. This is like weird shit. And, we could talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, this is something that I have like wholeheartedly believed in since I was like 5.
Oh.
And from 5 until now, I really haven't had anyone give me any reason to think that it's true.
Yeah.
And then suddenly the government goes, well, actually, you know what? We've got videos and stuff.
Yeah.
And here's a couple of them.
Yeah.
But it's a tough question. I feel like when aliens are brought up, there's two things that come up all the time in terms of purpose. And this goes in a lot of different directions, but these two things seem to be a part of it. Nuclear weapons. If you guys are about to blow each other up, we're going to come zoom around a little bit.
Which would be nice, if
they stop that.
If you didn't know about that possible fail-safe, that we often worry about Trump having access to the nuclear codes. What if aliens could just be like, we're gonna step in here? We'd be like, fuck yeah.
I don't think so, bud. That would be great. That's the hopeful look.
Nothing else seems to be stopping him from doing anything. So if some aliens could step in, that'd be great.
Yeah. On the other side of that coin, of course, I feel like I should say that there's theories that they are gonna fire somebody's nukes at someone just so that someone else will fire them, and this whole plague of humanity will wipe itself out.
Yeah, which, we also have a lot of potential for, with or without their help, it would seem.
But we know nuclear is something that they're attracted to. And a lot of the conversations or the messages, somehow when you interact with these beings, a lot of times things about the climate are communicated. Stop destroying the planet. Stop messing with the planet. Now, there's two sides to that coin, too. One could be they really care about Earth. And the other side, it's this is our experiment. Stop messing with it.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. I feel let me break down what I've heard as far as possible purposes. I'm going to throw them at you. You could see how you think about them.
Please.
All right. So let's say that we break it down into categories of where they come from. So let's say they're extraterrestrial, off planet, and they come here. I feel like there's two ways to look at this. They seeded life here, they kind of created life, and they, in the good version, they want us to graduate to Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Which, hey, good for us.
That would be amazing, right? And the bad version is they're okay, this experiment is over, kind of like what we said. We tried this in the petri dish, and now it's time to start a new one. Then there's crypto-terrestrial, which is the idea that they're here, either, I think crypto usually means within the Earth.
Yes.
And so in that case, maybe they predate humanity, and this is where they're leaning towards saving the planet, helping us so that we don't destroy it, or destroying us so that we don't destroy the planet.
Yeah. Either of which I could appreciate.
Awesome. Yeah, I get it. Guys. Yeah. There's the interdimensional quality where they're from some other plane of existence that we can't see, that's sort of overlapped onto ours. And in that case, they could be here to help us transcend into the next dimension, or here to, this is a really tough one, theory, that they are here to feed off of our suffering. That they're for whatever reason, emotional suffering is something that they mine from the human experience.
Wow, I don't think I'd heard that one before.
Oh, really?
It's dark.
That's one I don't want to go too deep into because that feels like the most conspiratorial.
Yeah.
But there is a thing called loosh, Loosh, which is the thing that they claim is produced when humans suffer, and that's what they're.
Wow.
That's what they're getting.
Yeah, so like we were talking about earlier, the sort of factory farm, there's some kind of energy that they harvest from us. Right.
The prison planet theory too, that kind of plays into it. So if you're trying to Reddit or Google any of these things, that'd be the stuff to look up.
Happy Googling.
Yeah. Don't go too dark on it. And then the last thing, as far as purpose goes, is sort of technological, maybe all living consciousness realizes that fusing with technology is the next step towards transcending. But maybe most civilizations succumb to that technology before they can transcend.
Yeah.
So, of all that stuff, is there an intuitive leaning?
So, when I first watched Age of Disclosure, that was one of the first times I was introduced to the crypto-terrestrial thing, that idea, and being oh, holy shit. Our oceans are so deep, and we don't know what the fuck is down there. So I was drawn to that because, it might have been the first time that I had entertained that idea, because you always sort of associate and think about, aliens, extraterrestrial being from space. And then just being like, no, have you ever watched any of those deep sea documentaries? Because every one of us at some point who watched those were like, the fish down there are like aliens.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
So there's this really like sweet and sort of funny like opening there for my imagination to be like, who the fuck knows what's down there? Because we can only even go so deep. And we're like, it's already so batshit crazy and cool.
Let me throw this at you if you don't mind.
Please.
Have you heard the theory that there's an underwater construction facility that produces orbs or craft or whatever, and that these let's call them drones, these things that go out of this facility are kind of like a planetary defense system for Earth.
Whoa.
It's like almost as if whatever this phenomenon is, it put this thing in the ocean to watch over like what's going on this planet. Like maybe they're light years away, and this is sort of like communicating back what's happening. Have you heard that?
I haven't, and that's cool. Like I said, I mean, you hope that the ultimate intention is not our destruction, but it is one of those things where I can be like, oh yeah, that would be, the ocean would just be a really good place to put that. And people have, again, in Age of Disclosure, it was the first time where they were talking about like, I saw this thing come out of the water, and I was like, oh yeah, there's like a whole world down there.
Yeah.
So I had not heard of like the idea of there being like a whole facility in these drones. I just know that like there is a lot that has been going on to reverse engineer the things that they have found, whether they're from that place or from the sky or whatever.
That's right. Yeah. A lot of some of the thinking behind Disclosure is that there's been a silent Cold War for reverse engineered technology between the superpowers.
Right.
A couple crafts following China, Russia, U.S., everybody's trying to make whatever that is.
Right.
And so that's definitely a factor. One thing that I want to come back to, though, is as far as purpose goes, and trustworthy sources in this community, there are two guys that come to mind that have always sort of fascinated me. One is Jacques Vallée. Have you heard of him? The other guy is named John Keel. I think Jacques Vallée is a little more well-known because there's actually a character in Close Encounters of the Third Kind based on him.
Oh, wow.
He's like one of the leading experts in this field for, since the 60s, 70s. And those two guys both kind of think that the phenomenon, like you talked about it, like sometimes they look like flying saucers, sometimes they look like bright lights, sometimes they look like complete triangles. Like over time, they sort of shift, like what they look like.
Right.
And part of their thinking is that this phenomenon works to shape human belief through intense, unexplained experience. And like way back in time, it was like a fireball in the sky. You'd see hieroglyphics depicting some sort of like sky battle.
Right.
And other times you'd see like Celtic culture, like fairies and things like that. And so it's like presenting itself in different ways to different cultures at different times.
Yeah.
But every time it presents it's a high strangeness event. So your mind is like, what did I just see? Was that real?
Right.
And by instigating this thought process in you, it's changing your consciousness.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I think the purpose of it is on like the surface is like get you to like question reality.
Yeah.
But to what end, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that is, if you've gone through an experience of ontological shock or like, I'm not sure if that's the right word, but it is kind of like a disruption in your sort of belief system, or whether that's questioning the nature of reality or what is real and what isn't. Like that is, but yeah, looking back historically over time is interesting to see how we've created stories, around these different experiences. And, but I don't know, I'm really interested in that theory that you're mentioning as far as like the development of our own consciousness and what that could possibly look like.
Yeah, because one of the things that's very interesting, or something that feels intuitively correct to me, is that the phenomenon presents itself to people as a reflection of their own internal processing. So like if a monk sees the phenomenon, it looks like, like beautiful Mother Earth energy, like it's like something spiritually powerful and beautiful. And then if CIA military industrial guy sees the phenomena, it looks like threat and there's paranoia and it seems evil and like there's an imminent, it's going to invade us or whatever.
Yeah.
And so each person's conscious experience of the phenomenon is different based on where you're at on your own conscious journey. I feel like that might be a part of why there's very little uniformity from experience to experience.
Yeah, I think that's really plausible. It makes sense, and it's something that, the subjective experiences, and that's why they call them experiencers, in the sense that like it is their, a very, I don't know, like there are. And I don't know a lot about them, the sort of similarities of people who have say they've had experiences or like, I don't know if I believe or follow or understand abductions and stuff like that, but there are sort of like patterns and stuff of things like experiences, both from like, the emotional, like conscious sense and also like what those physical experiences feel like losing time and stuff like that.
Yeah, right. Well, so, okay, we're kind of talking about how it represents, but since ontological shock is a factor here, and it seems kind of unlikely to me that the government will ever deliver this like on, like here is what it is.
Right.
It'll probably be more catastrophic where they just come down or something.
Yeah.
There's like a moment where everyone is just forced to deal with it. Do you have any ideas on what this indigestible truth could be?
Oh my God. Can you restate the question?
So like, how can I, okay, so there's, some people are afraid that if the truth comes out, society will collapse.
Yeah.
What would make society, what type of truth would cause society to collapse?
Oh, dang. I don't know, because I have considered that when thinking about it. I'm like, if aliens are real, and it causes a sort of questioning of reality and the realness of our human experience, and disrupts people's sort of trust in the systems that have been built around them to kind of operate humanity in a certain way, like, it's hard to think about anything being able to take down capitalism because, like, we've said, like, people, and I've seen those same posts, with people reflecting on the fact that, like, okay, great, if aliens exist and I have this information, I still need to pay my student loans, right? Like, what is going to change for me on a sort of daily basis? So it is very context dependent. If, like, these things, if something were to arrive and catastrophic disclosure happens, I don't know, I feel like there would be enough fear and uncertainty and enough chaos that would provoke people to, hunker down in a way that's like for their own safety.
Yeah.
That I just imagine that kind of fear response, because it is, again, if it's this slow drip disclosure, like some people describe it as, is that, like some people say that is the sort of purpose of it, is because people can kind of get used to hearing it on the news and more in popular culture. Like, Steven Spielberg, who was just on Colbert and was talking about Disclosure Day and being like, I can't wait, this is great, because now everybody's gonna just see that this stuff is real.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, oh yeah, like, I don't know how, depending on how this truth comes out, like, perhaps again that this is one of the intentions, is to make it sort of this slow drip, intravenous, coming to not terms, not even like a full understanding, but just a kind of acceptance that this is part of the conversation. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, okay, so let's assume that's true, right? Why tell the truth now? Why did slow drip disclosures start in 2017? From 37 or whenever it happened, Roswell and all that, up till 2017, it was like you're a freak if you believe in aliens.
Yeah.
And then in 2017, they're like, actually, I find myself, the biggest question for me surrounds the why now.
Yeah. Man, I don't know. And when I think about some of the things that I've read, and again, these are the speculations that I'm interested in from a sort of like a outside viewer, having this really, really quick advancement of AI and sort of seemingly taking steps towards AGI, artificial general intelligence.
Yeah.
Some people kind of see that connection there, and the massive amounts of energy that we need to run these AI data centers is something that could be solved with the newer technology that we might have been able to reverse engineer from different things. So this sort of slow leak, is it due to something related to that? Again, I don't know. Like personally, I wonder if there, that's the other thing is it's like where do the conspiracies overlap? Because people were, all of these stories about like something happening in 2027, something of significance. And like, is this a preparation for something that they know that they won't have control over as far as, again, if it's just like, well, there's an arrival and it's catastrophic. That seems like a much more likely scenario in which there's mass panic and fear and a societal collapse.
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, just spitballing the things that I've thought about in my head, and I'm curious where you are.
Well, same thing. I mean, all we can do is guess, right? But I think not just in UFOs and aliens, but in every facet of my life, I'm trying to listen to this quiet, intuitive voice that sometimes tells me what it thinks is happening.
Yes.
And usually that voice is layered under a lot of other voices, like the ego voice, or like that sort of like dysfunctional circular thinking, you're not good enough voice. All these voices are there, and then right at the bottom, that quiet one is maybe telling the truth, and try to like clear away the noise. And so when I do that on this topic, I find myself always coming back to 2027, and I don't know why, what will happen or anything, but it seems like such a round number that in 2017 they started this, and it was like, okay, guys, we got 10 years to get everybody ready for whatever's going to happen then. And maybe they don't even know what's going to happen. They just know something's going to happen. And so the military guys see it as a threat, and like, the spiritual thinkers see it as an opportunity. And so there's all these, like, everybody's just imposing their own understanding of it over top. So yeah, something about 2027 really stands out to me, but I don't know why. In my relationship with Reddit, I was just like, oh, I didn't know that I needed to. And it's funny because the naysayers on there are always just like, yeah, and then the next year, and then the next year, and it keeps getting pushed off. But I feel like there have been more significant theories around 2027 that have caught a lot of people's attention. But there's Y2K and 2012.
Oh,
and
sure.
A lot of people have prophesized, but something about it, I don't know.
And that intuitive feeling that you explore in your gut when you kind of push away all of this stuff, do you feel afraid?
I truly believe that whatever happens then will be perceived completely differently by every single person. That there will be no shared reality. Like right now, we kind of live in this thing that has been described as consensus reality. It's like a folding into, here's where we all agree, these are the laws of physics, these things are matter, and like we're all in agreement, so it's strong, and everybody helps hold this reality together. And then if you're presented with something that unfolds consensus reality to a place where you're closer to your dream world than you are your waking life, no one is experiencing the same thing anymore. Everyone is like getting a different reading. It's like their antenna is getting a different transmission. So my thought is that something will happen and that who you are will determine what you experience.
Wow. I've never considered that, honestly. And so in just sort of thinking about that question, like, I think that in some ways that makes me feel afraid, and in the sort of, that sort of deconstruction of those agreements, and not knowing what that's going to look like, and not being sure of, like, so I think a lot about, people in my life that I've never talked about this kind of stuff with, and who have maybe never given thought to it at all, and what that kind of does in the deconstruction of that reality for them, how that impacts their lives, because everybody here just, going about human life is dealing with a whole lot of shit, and then like adding that on top of it, what does that look like collectively for us? And even if it is different for every single person, that's like a lot of consensus gone around something that used to be very sort of unquestioned and stabilizing.
Yeah. And there's that like catastrophic world shaking, you can't go to work anymore.
Yes.
Type of situation.
Yeah. I can appreciate that. Like I think about it for myself. I'm just like, I think it was about a year ago that I was experiencing those sorts of like confusing sort of ontological questions. And, just asking yourself, what is it? How does it change your sense of reality if aliens were to be real? And not because I had made up my mind 100% or even still have, but it was just never a serious question that I felt like I needed to contend with or ask myself about. And then all of a sudden, like I was just in a place in my life where it was, and that's hard, especially because of the stigma and because of wanting to be real about it with people without, while just being very aware of the sort of shame and the strangeness of it. And it's something you don't fully understand. And maybe for some folks like me, like, or even really feel like there's no sort of certainty around this. But I do feel like something, in my sort of sense of curiosity opened up in a way that allowed me to not be so like closed off to just even the idea of it, Yeah. It's like thinking about those fish at the bottom of the ocean. It's like, look at these fucking fish. You know what I mean? Like there's all kinds of like nature itself is like so wildly inventive. Like I can't imagine limiting the possibilities of what could be real and exist to this planet, because there's so much out there and there's so much in here that we don't even know about. Yeah. Sorry, you were coming to a thought and I kind of jumped in
I
with
think
the
you
fish.
just nailed it. I think that's what the phenomenon is trying to get us to do, is to loosen our grip on the consensus reality and realize that there's much bigger ideas at play. And if it can confuse you and sort of like give you the opportunity to reframe what you know. That's what it's trying to do. Whether it's showing you the Virgin Mary in like a flame, or something, or the sun is dancing around the sky, or things that are impossible that you witness and then go, if that happened, which I perceived it to happen, then maybe other things are possible that I have so far disregarded.
Yeah, this brings up something that I just I haven't told to a lot of people. but is a well-known sort of thing within my family, and I was just with my grandmother yesterday. She's 96 years old, and she made several pilgrimages to Medjugorje, where they reported, many people reported sightings of the sun moving around in the sky. And she said that that's something that she witnessed, and she called it a miracle. And so, there have always been, I think, in my growing up very Catholic, a sort of sense of mysticism that whether or not I ascribe to, I did at some point, but whether it's something that I believe in now, how it allows me to think about those things in a different way. You know what I mean? And to say like, a person that I love and care about very much, like shared this experience with me. And I never really even thought about it outside of the context of it just being something that, maybe that's something that she saw. And in my head back then, it would have just been like, well, I guess, that means God is real. It could be fucking anything. You know what I mean? And now, like, so I don't know, like, even though there's a stigma about it being aliens, like Catholics believe in, transubstantiation. What's crazier than that shit,
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Is that for some reason this topic was to use a term, demonized.
Yeah.
When others were allowed to flourish.
Yes.
And it doesn't make sense why.
Right.
There feels like that was such an intentional move to be like, don't look over here.
Right.
If you want to believe in these things, that's fine, but not this one.
The psyop of it all. Like
right.
it's been, all of this has been intentional. The design of it and the sort of, our relation to how we think of it and how we, treat it. It's interesting because now, in the past 10 years, like you said, it's been shifting. So when you have the New York Times releasing these things, when you have like actual congressional hearings going on and you realize, oh, again, like these Congress folks, they also don't know what the fuck is going on. Like it's deeper than that kind of thing. Interesting to kind of reflect on that.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's move to the lightning round.
Oh, I can't wait.
Rapid fire questions.
Oh my God.
Quick answers.
So nervous.
You don't have to think too much. Could be yes or no answers, or if you want to elaborate a little bit, that's fine.
Okay.
But here are a couple things that are circulating.
Okay.
Do you believe that remote viewing is real?
Yes. So I feel like to be really brief, when it comes to like out-of-body experiences being something that happen to people in different states of consciousness. I think that something like remote viewing is in the realm of possibility. So I'm going to go with yes.
Okay. Love it. Are there alien-human hybrids?
Oh my God, I've been seeing this too. I mean,
this is talked about on national news right now.
Okay, yeah.
This is like they have described 4 species of aliens.
Right.
Which is crazy.
At some point, I want to come back and make a plug for People of Earth. It's an old show, alien related, but I'll come back. Okay. Alien human hybrids. Why not? If these things are around, like humans are into some freaky shit. I say sure. I mean, I hope it's not like a weird government-based breeding program, and it's more just like we did it for love.
Oh, that sounds nice. I'd like
Why
that.
Not? Yeah.
Does the history of humanity run beyond the currently accepted model that there were dinosaurs and then there were humans? Do you think that there's like whole other civilizations that we don't know about in the billions of years this planet's been around? I'm
sure. Like I say, like, again, what the fuck do we know? Like sometimes I think about dinosaurs. I'm like, they're definitely aliens. Like if aliens had like, if I don't know, but they were here, and it's like so bizarre to think about how, in the course of human history, we have, what we have is since what's been recorded, right? Mm. There was nothing before then going on just because we didn't know how to figure out how to write yet. Like there's just, again, I think there's too much time and literal space.
Yeah.
Not to be bunny, but for there not to have been. So I'm going to say, I can't remember if the question posed the affirmative. Yes,
there are. Why did we stop going to the moon, and why are we going back now?
Oh, such a good question. Let's say it is all about timing. It is all part of this campaign to put ourselves in these situations where these questions and conversations are all being normalized now, right? And I don't know. Part of me is like, did they send those kids back because, supposedly there was something they saw the first time around and they wanted to confirm? Or is it all a part of the PSYOP? TBD.
Okay.
That's my answer.
TBD on that one. Is CERN opening a portal for interdimensional realities to come through?
Okay. Educate me because I don't know about CERN.
I always say this wrong. So the Large Hadron Collider, I think is the name.
Yep.
It's a giant ring that they send like photons, electrons at high speed, and they smash them into each other around this ring. Have you heard of this thing?
Yes. The Hadron Collider.
That's it.
Okay, yes.
And some have seriously claimed that they have accidentally opened portals and things have come in and out.
Oh, interesting. So this is where I'm answering based on what I want to be true and not necessarily if I believe it or not, but like, yes, I want there to be like, especially when it comes to time travel and interdimensional shit, I'm like, that would be awesome. And the basis for, understanding the Hadron Collider and that experience and what happened, but it feels like the kind of situation in which something like that could be possible. Going with the affirmative. She's so unprofessional.
This is great. These questions have no answers, so thank you for giving some.
Yeah, of course.
Aliens or this phenomena is actually just future humans coming back to try and change something.
I've also considered this, and again, with my particular leanings towards like traveling through time and space being something that I'm curious about and kind of romanticize in my brain of what if this could be this? With everything that's going on with AI, yes, I honestly think that like there is something that, and again, the influence of popular culture can't be denied. I'm just thinking about like, it makes total sense that people from the future would come back and be like, you guys really fucked this up. I'm like, if Terminator wasn't enough, but so the way that we've seen AI and the possibilities of AGI and where that's going right now, it feels certainly possible that there is, I also think that it's something that very much connected to the planet and its inhabitability. So again, it's hard to say, or hard to tell, like what is it from my imagination that just feels like we've made so many movies about this that it's likely inevitable. Yeah. And there's that sense of like, we all see where this is going, right? You're like, especially when it comes to AI and machines and all of the things that we're dealing with right now. Like sometimes it feels like this is all happening really fast and in slow motion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
JFK was killed because he was preparing to disclose the truth.
Wow, I've never heard of that. I don't know if I need to learn a little bit more about that because I never heard of that as a possible motivation. And was that something he was possibly teasing?
There is a certain famous speech, now I'm sort of talking without really having a good understanding, where he discusses secret societies as being responsible for a lot of the problems in the world, that there's a war going on without guns being fired. And he was sort of alluding to this information that everybody needs to have and understand. right before he was killed.
Oh, fuck.
So, yeah, it's tough because, again, this is one where there's so much around JFK, so much confusion and chaos, and, like, you know, theories have been posited, so it's hard to know.
Yeah, that's that one I haven't heard a lot about. Let's say anything is possible. Let's say I hope that we aren't murdered.
Yeah,
talking about it on this podcast. Let's put a disclaimer at the end.
Don't murder us. Okay, final rapid fire question.
Okay.
There is a galactic federation of aliens that exercises jurisdiction over us as a non-space traveling species until we get ourselves together enough to be worthy of it.
This one I'm not sure about. This I feel like makes me, if anything, it's, you know, nice to consider the fact that there is some kind of galactic federation that is unified and organized around, you know, anything and operates successfully. But, you know, we've done it here. Look at, you know, the UN is still around. Good for us. But if something like that were to exist, I don't imagine that we'd be very good contenders for joining, given our track record and our history of blowing one another up.
That's right. Yeah, good point.
But I do appreciate the fact that if it does exist, I just like the fact that they're like efficient and organized.
Yeah, they got a plan.
Good for them.
Okay, you made it to the end.
Thank you.
Good job.
Oh, I appreciate that.
So thank you for humoring me, answering all my questions, talking through this topic that is, at times, there's shame and guilt involved in it, and it's just nice to be open and vulnerable about how we think. You know?
I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was.
And in closing, I just want to sort of reflect and say, you know, a lot of UFO people ask, what are the aliens? But I think in a lot of ways, the question should be, why does this phenomenon shape itself around humanity? You know? And why does it look different depending on the era and the culture and the person? And what is it trying to tell each one of us individually? Because it does feel sort of individual. And as I said before, and I just want to like zero in on it, it does feel like it reflects yourself back to you in a way. And that maybe whatever happens next, 2027 or otherwise, it will be a reflection of how you treat the world around you and how you understand your place in the world around you.
Yeah.
And in some ways, I think that the secret that they're hiding is somehow that they're hiding us from ourselves.
Wow. That
there's like something that we're capable of beyond this capitalistic, patriarchal society that we're all stuck in. They've done a lot of work to try and create scarcity and division and keep everyone away from whatever this truth is.
Yeah.
But my intuition says that that will end.
Yeah.
And that there's the potential for something to be great, but it's sort of like a fork in the road, and it's kind of up to us to choose to take the next step or to, I don't know, for it to all fall apart.
Yeah. What a place to be at in humanity, right?
How did we all get born into this moment?
I don't know. That's the thing is like, I've talked with a couple of friends who are alien adjacent and have said like, one of my friends jokes, he's like, I think it just needs to happen before I die. You know, he's like, I think it's one of those things that, getting to have it happen to have been born during the time when it happens, when disclosure happens. What a time to be experiencing life as a human being.
Yeah.
Also in the sense of understanding like our idea of like our being at the center of this universe, like humanity's place in it, could be totally upended. It's sort of horrifying, but also exciting.
Yeah, it's like the moment when they realized that Earth wasn't the center of the universe.
Right.
And that, not even the sun isn't even the center of the universe.
Right. Yeah.
We're just out here floating in space.
There's so much crazy shit out there. Like, if anybody wants to definitively say that there aren't aliens, I don't know. If anybody wants to say anything definitively in this day and age, I'm kind of like, okay.
Yeah, back it up, buddy.
Back it up.
I think that's a great place to leave it. Jessica, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I had so much fun.